Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Team Hangout with Emanuele. Hello, Emanuele. How are you
Hello.
doing this week?
I am. I'm doing fine. I'm actually in Amsterdam today for a meeting I had with the DNB, with with the Netherlands Bank, in an official capacity, and considering that I have, I heard that the audio wasn't too good last time we had the hangout. Then I actually just came here at the studio of a friend, and I am taking the hangout probably in the most professional studio that ever existed and that will ever exist here in Amsterdam. Is called the Studio Leroy, and if you have a band or anything like that, then you would be, and you are in Amsterdam, you should definitely consider coming here and having your sessions here. Next to me, there is.
Are we getting
My good friend
little band
Ralph,
session
if you can
afterwards?
see this. No, I'm actually here just for this. He's a very old friend, and he lent me a little bit his equipment for this hangout because I couldn't be in my home studio, so I wanted to make sure that the quality was good enough.
Yeah, it's crispy clear. So this week's Team Hangouts has an upgrade in quality. It's a hi-fi Team Hangout this week. Nice, good stuff. And also the little hint about DMB, that's interesting. Is there any nugget? I'm just fishing for alpha here. Any nugget you can tell us about?
This was well. It shouldn't really come as a surprise, the fact that we have quite very often we have meetings with the regulators, and we talk about different kind of topics. So sometimes it is with AFM, which is basically the regulators for the financial market, and then sometimes, like today, we have also meetings with the DNB, which is the Netherlands Bank, and they are regulating the cash aspect, so the money aspect. In particular, today we had a meeting with their innovation team for the financial market. So not exactly with the regulators themselves, with the supervisors themselves, but with more like the teams that try to innovate in the banking system. And today the meeting was not really about regulations or anything like that. It was more about Dusk itself. So they wanted to know a little more about Dusk. They wanted to know a little more about the overall reason why we are trying to decentralize the financial market infrastructure. What is the opportunity? Why having an open system, and what is the advantage in something like that. And it was a very, very interesting meeting. We also learned a little bit about their endeavors with CBDC and with stable coins, which was also another topic that we discussed. But yeah, since this was in Amsterdam, then I'm quite away from my own home. So I am taking the call here in the podcast studio of Studio Leroy.
Nice. That sounds like a very interesting meeting, and it's always good to strengthen the relationship with the DNB, and for them to get to know Dusk even more and have an even clearer idea of what we're trying to build, right? So that sounds really interesting. Another sort of relevant news I wanted to bring into this kind of introduction of the Team Hangout is that I'm not sure if you saw the news, but Axiology received their DLT TSS license today. So that makes them the second in the EU that got the license, aside from 21X.
Yeah, congratulations to them. Congratulations to Axiology. Congratulations to Marius. with one of the directors there, with whom we are in touch, and we have been talking in the past, and we are also still in touch with the financial world, especially the financial world that deals with DLT, is quite a small world, so everybody knows everybody else. But Axiology has been in the game for quite some time, and their interest has always been in bonds and in the capability of automating a lot of the different operations that have got to do with bonds, and the capability of settling those kind of securities, automating also the coupon payment. So their DLT TSS is a little different from the one from 21X and the one that we are going for in NPEX, because they have a different kind of products in mind. But I think it is no small feat to get the license nowadays, and especially this early in the game. So congratulations to them. I'm very stoked and excited for for their endeavors.
Right.
And yes, so we have been in touch with them. They know us, we know them, and for sure there are going to be many more interesting business capabilities that we are now capable of activating, given that they are now a fully licensed entity with DLT TSS.
Right. Yeah. It's always great to see even more adoption of the DLT model. So exactly, congratulations to them. Then we can go ahead with just the questions from the community. There's a couple of them which I have here on my backlog, and we can start with some about NPEX. Well, kind of related to NPEX. So the first one is, how independent is Dusk of NPEX? Might the close ties with NPEX hinder the adoption of assets from other exchanges onto Dusk? I know that Dusk is a separate institution, but still a lot of the leading people are the same in NPEX and Dusk.
So NPEX and Dusk, they have a symbiotic relationship, right? So we are fully independent organizations, of course, but our goals are actually very, very similar. They, from their perspective, their marrying of the Dusk perspective and the Dusk technology means an increase of efficiency, and at the same time the capability of serving also a completely different kind of market segment that remains untouched at this particular point in time, which is still and more very interested in a lot of different products and assets that are out there. So of course they are very they are very committed to the partnership with Dusk, because through us they offload a hell of a lot of costs that otherwise they are incurring. Not only that, they also gain competence, expertise, and a lot of different knowledge about the overall DeFi, the overall capabilities, for instance, to create different kind of lines of products that otherwise they wouldn't really know where to start from. From our own perspective, from the Dusk perspective, then Dusk is perceived by the market as a whole. Without NPEX, Dusk is perceived as a technology provider, right? And as a technology provider, for how good the technology is, then you always are, perceived as a vendor, right? It is quite like having somebody that is trying to push a certain particular technology other than something else, correct? So in this business, you either have a very close partnership with a regulated entity, or you have a hell of a lot of money to spend in order to buy yourself into adoption. and we have been pursued since the very beginning, the first of the two. Why? Because buying adoption is not sustainable. It's not sustainable from a lot of different kind of perspective. It definitely aligns the incentive there with other with the other token holders, for instance, but at the same time it doesn't really achieve any kind of product market fit. The product market fit is basically just buying adoption or buying a partnership with somebody else. And as long as basically there is somebody that buys a partnership, there is somebody that sells a partnership. And if they sell a partnership, they are not only selling it to you, they're selling it to somebody else. So where does this stop, right? Whereas when you have, an alignment, not only on financial incentive, but on interests, because essentially you are allowing somebody to do, to achieve their mission much more easily and much better with less financial expenditure and increasing, the efficiency of the overall institution, then that is, something that goes beyond just the bribing, if you will. So again, our partnership with NPEX is an incredible asset, and it is basically what diversifies Dusk from all the other different protocols that are trying to compete for attention. We are over that stage, right? We are talking directly with regulators. We are talking directly with asset managers, with asset issuers. We are talking with other venues. We are talking with financial institutions. We are talking with a lot of different parties. Even stablecoin providers, and they all want to talk with us because we not only come with a technology that we want to sell or that they perceive that we want to sell, we are coming with a financial institution that they need in order to do something, right? So a stablecoin, for instance, Quantos, they don't want to face retail. Exactly like, yeah. So providers of stablecoin like Quantos, they do not, or Tether, for instance, or Circle, they do not want to face retail directly. Why? Because they don't want redemptions. They want to create secondary markets. But in order to create a secondary market for a product like a stablecoin, then you need to be a financial institution. And then the financial institution is the one that arbitrates the redemptions and the issuance of this stablecoin, right? So it is very simple for anybody to sell Tether for euros, for instance, or for dollars on non-European exchange nowadays. Let's talk about USDC, is probably better. So if you want to sell your USDC, you go to a secondary market, but you do not redeem USDC. It's not that you take this USDC and you go to Circle and say, hey, I want to redeem USDC for dollars. They don't want that, and therefore they want only to interface with few selected financial institutions. Why? Because essentially they are doing something with the liquidity that is provided to them. In the case of Circle and Tether, for instance, they buy treasuries with it. That's their business model. Quantos, same thing. They don't want to face retail. They want to face few selected institutions to do this redemption and issuance toward. And that is essentially their model. So because of that, when you are going to these parties to talk with these parties, then you can get something out of them that nobody else can. Like, for instance, the capability of doing direct redemption and issuances instead of just the secondary market. And we have to do that because NPEX is a secondary market that can create a secondary market for this kind of stablecoin, right? But if we went there just as Dusk, then we needed to convince them to adopt Dusk, to create their own or to migrate their own protocol on top of Dusk, and then we get into the conversation: what are the advantages on doing it on Dusk versus the advantages of doing it on top of Aptos, Sui, Ethereum, and those other protocols, right? So we don't really have something, a USP that would immediately convince all the other participants in the financial market to deal with us. We had to basically compete with institutions that have got much bigger treasury, much more adoption, much more marketing budget that we have, right? Instead,
But I think that answers the overall question, and does NPEX does not hinder the adoption of new assets onto Dusk. It's actually quite the contrary. It gives us the opportunity
no, the
to
opposite.
have exactly, yeah. So that was the main idea.
Yeah, it's completely the opposite. Without NPEX, we wouldn't really be able to talk very easily with a lot of different institutions. First of all,
Exactly.
nobody wants to go first, and second of all, they want to talk with other institutions. They don't want to talk with a technology provider. So, due to our partnership with NPEX, then we are essentially perceived as an institution. We are perceived as a legitimate participant, and
Exactly. Yeah.
that is what they like.
And if you guys want to learn more about the different licenses and our regulatory age that NPEX gives us, we actually posted an article today. It's on our website, and you can find it in the announcements channel if you want to check it out if you haven't yet. Cool. Thank you, Emma. Now we can move on to
Sure.
the next question, which is a little bit about Hedger. And someone is asking if Hedger is finished at this moment or if it's still in development, and will it be released alongside DuskEVM once DuskEVM launches?
So Hedger is actually finished. Is under review. Are we going to launch it together with DuskEVM? If we are not going to launch it together, then it's going to be just slightly afterwards, not that much afterwards, though. It is the protocol, the base protocol is actually done. We are creating also some kind of a test application on top of it to understand how we can use it. For instance, also to create an obfuscated trading application.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. It's probably going to be released before the DApp is finished, I would assume, right?
Well, I'm not sure if we are going to release it together with DuskEVM. Perhaps we will want to release it just slightly afterwards, also because this will give us a little bit more news cycle. Instead of going for one big bang release that will have everything in it. But again, it's not. I mean, in terms of readiness, the protocol is done. The application that uses Hedger, well, some test applications, some demo applications that use Hedger, they are in development, but they also are going to be done quite quickly. So that's not where the discriminant for when to launch it.
Yeah, that's clear. Okay. Now, considering that Hedger does give DuskEVM the EVG functionalities on top of it, someone is asking if can external developers implement things on DuskEVM which can't be implemented on any other conventional EVMs, and they're thinking because of the possibilities opened up by the additional features of DuskEVM, such as EVG.
Yes, yes, we are aiming to be the DuskEVM exists because we want to have 100% interoperability with an ecosystem, right? So because of that, then we also provide the capability for any kind of developer of EVM applications to deploy their own applications on top of Dusk. Now, what is the difference in deploying something on DuskEVM and or on any other EVM? Well, the main difference is the fact that DuskEVM settles on DuskDS, and therefore it is more regulatory controlled, so to speak, due to this kind of close connection with a settlement layer, which in fact has been vetted and in fact is part of the financial market infrastructure. Then we are capable of extending the license of our partners, not only NPEX, as a matter of fact, because there are other kind of venues that we are dealing with at the moment, and we could extend their licenses too on the entirety of the application layer. This doesn't happen on Ethereum, for instance. I mean, if you do a security application, if you create an application that deals with security on top of Ethereum, then there is no license that basically covers that kind of application. So you need to have some kind of licensed and regulated entity that basically vouch for you and the application is their own. Whereas on Dusk is a different thing. So because of our relationship with NPEX, our relationship with regulated entities, then we create applications for them on top of Dusk, and those that create other kind of applications, then they can use the same kind of assets, provided that their investors and those that use them, they went through an onboarding procedure, a KYC procedure with one of the license providers and one of the license holder. This is really not something that other EVMs provide at this particular point in time. It is a peculiarity of DuskEVM. It's one of our USP. But that said, then other than regulated assets, then anybody can create any kind of DApp on the application layer of Dusk. They can, in fact, deploy any kind of contract there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's clearly states, our USP in comparison to other like Dusk EVMs. Other EVM layers. Now the next one is again around the Dusk EVM launch, but it's more so just to get an idea if someone said that there's been a few pivots and delays in the past, but at this stage, is there anything that could delay or change the Dusk EVM launch? They just want to understand if there are any remaining blockers.
No, there isn't.
Or so.
No, there isn't anything that can delay it. There is nothing that is going to just hinder the upcoming launch, which is going to be sooner than anybody here expects.
Sweet. Yeah.
I think actually I'm going to say that it's much sooner than anybody here expects, probably.
All right. That sounds amazing. I don't want to go too deep into that, but that sounds really great.
I'm not providing dates. Sorry, guys. Tomorrow, today, yesterday, 1st of August, 10th of August, this week, Thursday, whenever it is. I'm not going to say it. I'm just saying that I am willing to bet that this is coming. It's going to be launched sooner that you guys probably expect.
There you go. Now, with the launch of DuskEVM, someone is asking about grants. So in our previous Team Hangout with Ryan did mention that there was not a good enough grant which someone submitted so that we could actually go along with it. But with DuskEVM coming, will there be more of a focus on these grants going forward?
Yes and no. So we do want we have some focus and some goals, right? So we know what we want, and because of that, then it is actually more probable that we will allocate resources for external developments or development that pertain to external teams out of Dusk in a deliberate way. So we are probably going to go and look for different kind of applications that we do want to have on DuskEVM and we want to do to launch with DuskEVM. That doesn't mean that we cannot be surprised and dazzled by somebody that has got that apply for a grant and has a very good idea and a very good very good product market fit. Normally, in my experience, this doesn't really happen. Normally, grants, in my experience, they are applied by teams that want to start something up. And although I am myself quite welcoming of any kind of new on new startups or new kind of applications, I'd rather basically allocate grants for some applications that already proved some kind of product market fit. I do believe that, although I do believe that DuskEVM gives us the great opportunity, for instance, to organize hackathons and to finance hackathons, and that in that way, rather than just allocate resources to a grant, then we can in fact just have several different teams flying in, coming in, perhaps in Amsterdam, perhaps somewhere else, and create applications, and then we can meet these people and see these applications, see how they work, and then at that point in time, then we can decide to keep funding or not certain particular applications that emerge during a hackathon, which I think is a great instrument to that we haven't been able to use in the past, but right now with DuskEVM, with the capability, for instance, of using the entire ecosystem of tools that are already established, then this gives us the capability of creating hackathons. So I believe that hackathons are probably a better way to fund new startup ideas, new ideas that might actually be created. And I think that it doesn't really exist hackathons for regulated assets. We are probably going to be among the first that will do such a thing. So I am actually quite very much looking forward to that, and I think that those are better initiatives rather than just grants. We will probably selectively decide to grant or to release a grant toward projects or teams that already have applications that are established and that we do need in order basically to create and foster adoption.
That makes a lot of sense. And hackathon sounds a lot of fun. And being the first one around regulated assets as well in the EU, that's gonna turn some heads around, and people would be interested to probably participate and see what's up with that. So we could expect a Dusk hackathon later. Later after. Later on. Let's just put it that way. That sounds exciting.
Well,
Sweet.
it's on our mind. I mean, DuskEVM will give us the capability of doing something in that sense, which I also do believe that is great marketing and enhance the visibility of the project quite a lot.
100%. All right, I have two more questions to get to. The first one is: will Dusk eventually have a burn mechanism?
The sincere answer is I don't know. There are some people inside of the organization, some teammates, which are actually quite in favor of those. me personally, I would like to understand a little bit more what would be the economic or the impact on the economics of the overall protocol before looking at that. But I can already say that in some cases it definitely might make sense, especially when we're talking about the capability of having a sequencer, right, for the Dusk application layer. So for DuskEVM, we might think that until the sequencer is going to be the one provided by Dusk, before being, just decentralized, and we might as well just burn all the fees that the sequencer accrues. That might actually be something that we are looking at. Another thing might very well be that we can imagine something pretty close to what Binance is doing with BNB and having it on NPEX. So anything that is traded in terms of securities in a decentralized fashion using a DEX, for instance, part of these fees they might need to go to NPEX to sustain the license, but part of these fees might very well be burned in terms of profit of the overall exchange. We are looking into that, but at the moment we need to understand exactly what we would need to burn and why. It needs to be said that at the moment we are actually burning tokens. I mean, I'm not really sure if this is something that you guys are aware of, but at the moment we are not accruing the full coin base from the block creation, as a matter of fact, because in the code the code still prioritizes speed against completeness, right? So at the moment when the block generator gathers enough votes from and enough certificates from the previous block, then it simply just posts the block. And this is something that we chose to do because we wanted to make sure, that the blockchain was working fine, so that there was a very speedy block propagation. But at the moment, we gained enough confidence, I think, to just look at that methodology. So I want to remind everybody that if the amount, I mean, the coin base, the full coin base, is assigned to the block generator when all the certificates are collected. At the moment, only 75% of the certificates are collected, and therefore the remaining 15% is burned from the Coinbase pro rata. So there is already an inherent burning, which it doesn't feel like a burning because it's people are gaining less than they could, but there is already a burning essentially going on, which we might rectify in the near future, but this is not a priority.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, and yeah, thank you. That does give some insight into the burning strategy that we might be going forward with, depending on the different dApps or DEXs that get built on top of Dusk, and it really depends on the strategy of all of that. But it is something we're considering. So whenever we do have a final answer, we'll probably provide an update to everyone. Now, the last question which I am a bit confused about because I don't know what the light bulb moment is. But the question is, what happened to the light bulb moment? Is that still something the team plans to implement in the future? And I'm hoping you might know what the light
So the
bulb
light
moment
bulb,
is.
the light bulb moment refers basically to the implementation of the economic protocol. The economic protocol was propagated some time ago by Matteo and myself, and there is a paper about that. And the economic protocol essentially has got to do with two different things: the capability for smart contracts to pay for gas themselves. and this activates a lot of different kind of or enables a lot of different kind of mechanism that are not really, to my knowledge, they haven't been implemented in any other blockchain, because if a smart contract can pay for gas, then you can automate contract calls, right? So you don't really need to a lot of different things can happen automatically because they can be programmed directly on the blockchain. I'll give you a very short example, right? So let's say that I want to sell a certain particular asset when that asset reaches a certain threshold in price, right? So we could have at the end of every block, then all smart contracts can listen to the price of that particular asset. So this smart contract can activate by itself, pay for the gas of a transaction, and sell the asset without really anyone that propagates that transaction. This is one of the consequences, or one of the advantages of the so-called economic protocol, or light bulb, however you want to call it. The other has got to do with the capabilities, for instance, of streamlining the gas payment, so that people could, in fact, just have a lot of different way of paying for services on a blockchain without having to deal with the native token itself, but having the smart contracts actually paying for the gas itself, while the smart contract is part of an application that charges its own users in the way that they want. So the former is something that we haven't been we have been focused away from, essentially because it is probably something that we will pick up at some point, but essentially because we have other priorities at the moment. So these kind of optimizations are probably better left for later on. The latter, it is something that we inherently gain directly with DuskEVM by using account abstraction. So through account abstraction, then we can, it is a different form of economic protocol, so to speak, but the capability, for instance, of activating different kind of payments in different kind of valuta, so to speak, different kind of crypto, different kind of tokens, is definitely something that can happen there. Implementation wise is very different from the light bulb moment or from the economic protocol, because essentially the account abstraction does not allow a smart contract to pay for gas. It is more an off-chain mechanism, but still the result is roughly the same. And we are really we are putting a lot of attention, for instance, in creating quite some good user interface, some good UX that would allow everyday users to use applications that are deployed on a blockchain without really even knowing that it is a blockchain. I think that this is very important, especially when we are talking about regulated assets, which strategically appeal to a market segment which is not very used to crypto, or to self custody, or even to having to sign transaction themselves, alongside the crypto folk that are probably a little more knowledgeable about those operations.
Yeah, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the crypto folks are probably like 1%, and everyone else is still the rest of the world, right? Well, maybe not 1%, but I'm just trying to say that it's a small percentage of the overall market.
What we want
So it
is
makes sense, yeah.
to unify. What we want is to unify the audience, right? So we
Yeah,
don't really
exactly.
differentiate between crypto investors or normal traditional investors. To us, we want to have the best possible user experience independently, and we want to reconcile the traditional world with the crypto world, with DeFi. I mean, the overall reg DeFi. Actually, I've been reading somebody calling it real fi, which I think is even a better term. I think it is about that. It's about reconciling not only procedures, processes, and technology, but definitely also the investor base and the user bases. So I think that having a very good UX there is key, and I think that the account abstraction is definitely going on that direction. This is also what using DuskEVM will buy us.
Yeah, that's very important. Very important to have, and to not have to deal with the underlying technology and having to see it, but just to use the actual product without much headache. So that's great to hear. Now, one last question before we end this, really fast, because TNS is really really excited to get this question. So let me see. Please, is DuskPay still part of the plans for this year?
I don't like to talk about timelines, and this here basically implicitly means timelines. Let me put it this way: we consciously deprioritized DuskPay because we actually are focused on getting DuskEVM out, getting the application with the assets out. DuskPay is definitely something that we have been creating. The business case is quite clear, and it has been created together with partners that, in fact, are awaiting for the applications, the protocol, however you want to call it. But it is also true that the legislation that for which DuskPay was created to satisfy, it has been pushed up to October, if I'm not mistaken. So there is a little bit more time before picking that up. And before picking that up, I mean, if we are doing it on top of DuskEVM, this is definitely not going to be an effort that is so big that is going to, consume resources and these kind of things. So we will get to it. Timely, but our focus at the moment is another one, and that is also why DuskPay has been parked for the time being, and it will be reformulated and implemented on top of DuskEVM, because we implemented the MVP or the prototype of DuskPay on Dusk native, and we are not going to use Dusk native for these kind of applications. So it's going to be migrated on DuskEVM, but this also means that it's going to be much simpler, even for us to roll it out.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Emma. That was the last question for the session. So thank you everyone who asked all these questions. It was good questions. And like always, we're going to be here next week, but we might be here with a new guest next week. We'll let you guys know more about it maybe in the next couple of days, or maybe on Monday. We might have a new guest on here. And like always, the summary and recording is going to be uploaded tomorrow. Thank you for everyone who attended, and thank you, Emma, for taking the time to answer the questions. This was a good session. Thank you.
Cheers.
Have a
And
good day.
thanks to the community for being here and asking their questions. Have a great day.